What's going on, everybody? We're back with another episode, and this time we have another best-selling author in the house, the one and only Juliana Page, the best-selling author of the book Full Capacity. Juliana, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's so fun being here. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited. I'm excited for every episode, right? And people are probably like, yeah, you say that every time. You're right, I
Sure.
do. But I'm particularly excited about this because your book has a lot of meaning to it. It
Totally.
is a book that you put a lot of effort into, a lot of energy into it. You really had a lot of positive opinions throughout this entire experience about how you wanted things. And I love that because I think that that really goes to show how much you care about this book. And so I'm really excited for people to hear that and feel that and see that as we go through this conversation. So let's just kick it off like this.
Yeah,
Okay. People will read the show notes for your official bio, but
sure.
talk to me about what full capacity is and why you actually chose to write it.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to package, if I could, like the secret sauce that I kept seeing reflected back to me or that people would say. They would always say, you have so much energy, or you just have this high capacity brain, or they would keep bringing up the word capacity. And I thought, well, that's not just me. Like, I'm not just some special human that has extra capacity. Sure, there could be talent, gifting, and that sort of thing, but it's trained, it's built. And I don't think that people see that
Mm.
part. And we don't have many leaders that pull back the curtain and are vulnerable enough to show you what happens before the ta-da moments that the world gets to see.
Yep.
So that was really my job, was to help people see if you are just doing your work in every season, eventually that will compound and you will hit congruence where it all starts to make sense. Even seasons that didn't make sense, you'll see how they all come together for your ultimate purpose. So I was trying to help people see that from my story so that they could actually lean into their story in a really different way and train and train. Like, if it's not the hardest thing ever, fun too. But if it's not the hardest thing ever, you're probably not in your calling because it will require all of you. So I was trying to
Mm.
capture that for them.
All right, and so the subtitle of the book is How to Live Ridiculously Free, and How to Fuel a Life Without Limits.
Totally.
Do you feel
hmm
that people put false limitations on themselves? And if so, how do we live a life without limits?
Yeah, big time. I think we have limits that we don't even know about. We're just literally unconscious to them. And we live very externally focused. So we're not even focusing on our inner game at all.
Mm.
And that's a really hard way to live because then you're more attuned to what people think about you, to what trends are, to what somebody else's blueprint might be. And you're not aware of who you are,
Yep.
what you're actually passionate about, and if that blueprint would even work for you long term. So, being ridiculously free was something that I wanted to really help people access. Like, how can you be so peaceful, so joyful, so legitimately content on the inside that you just have a different level of courage in the world and you dare greatly with your life? And so I was trying to convey that. And then also, I kept seeing that so many stops, quote my air quotes, so many stops and so many limits kept being presented in front of
Yeah.
me. And I would just sit in that and I thought, well, if you don't have stops, you can't be unstoppable. So you're probably going to need some. And if you don't have these limits that you keep running up against, how can you actually fuel a life without them? So they're there, but it's all about your perspective and it's all about how you see it. And ridiculous freedom comes from radical trust in self and what's been entrusted to you and just deciding to steward that with all that you have. And it just unlocks so much in your life, which is really fun.
Do you feel, based on that, do you feel there's more limitations internally that we forget to spend time on and because we don't even know that they exist? Or do you feel that there's more limitations on the external that we just have to figure out how to actually break through them?
Yeah, my hot take is they're internal. I mean, the external ones are obvious, but I think they become cop outs. They become easy excuses, and they're usually time, money, connections, just things that people can say. But those really aren't the problem if you're honest,
Okay.
right? The problem usually is you don't believe, or you've got a high
Mm.
tolerance for fear that you shouldn't have. You should have a zero tolerance for fear policy in your life, right?
Yeah.
Or you have really bad habits and disciplines that you're not willing to look at. Or you're just not good at something, yet you've decided to make that your lane when it's not your lane. So there's so many things. Emotionally, I would say is the biggest one. I think if you can feel anything, you can do anything. But a
Yeah.
lot of times we don't feel our emotions and we use them against us. So if you've been rejected, or if you've been denied, or if you've been betrayed, or if you've been, the big ones are delay, discouragement, and disappointment. If you can't handle those emotionally, you really can't get through anything. So a lot of them are internal, but you're not set up to be resilient and enduring. And you have to be. Great
Yeah.
leaders have to be those things.
Yeah, and it's so clear that you're very knowledgeable about what this book is all about, right? And of course that's
Ask
a
me
great
how I
thing.
know. No.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Oh,
What I
God.
want to know is when you started writing this book, okay,
Yep.
what were your hesitations? What were your concerns? What were your limits when
Yeah.
you started writing this particular book because you knew you wanted this book to lead to something more?
Yes. I think, well, this was one, and I came to you on purpose, right? So I had been in two different contracts with traditional publishers. One was a vanity publisher, one was a traditional publisher. And somehow I was graced to go through those doors, but as I went through them, I kept encountering things that were really disappointing and really discouraging, and I was starting to see that this was not, these weren't the midwives. Like, these weren't people that could properly care for the message, or some of them weren't even set up to see it fully and appreciate the value of what it is, or they were stuck in vanity and they were stuck in tradition. And I don't fit either. So I'm like, this is just not going to work. And then I was in a position where this was 4 years in with this message, and the message kept going, which was not my experience. I had done 5 books before this, so I wasn't used to it changing so much in real time. That was a new experience for me. And so I was fighting for what the core of it was. And it was like, nope, it's deeper than that. Oh, it's deeper than that too. Nope, you just scratched the surface, actually. Go deeper. And I just did not love that. To be honest
Yeah.
with you, this was truly great writing is the wrestle. It really is. You really have to think. You have to think and you have to wrestle it out until you get the message. And I just knew that I couldn't put that on a publisher, frankly, and that was going to be
Mm,
my job to get to the core of the message. But I was going to need somebody that could help me execute really cleanly when I was ready for that. And that's what I was looking for. And I just did not have the confidence in these traditional publishers to do that because they were moving so slow and they were not fair to an author, in my opinion. And the way that industry is moving just in general is interesting. So to me, I wanted to make sure that it was going to be handled with the level of care that I would give it, and that the process was going to do it justice even after 4 years, even after going again. Like, if I'm going to go again, if I'm going to sprint again, I need the right partner, the right kind of running buddy to run with me to bring this forth. And
mm.
that was a really big deal to me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's talk about one of the key words of your book,
Yeah.
capacity.
Hmm.
Capacity can be a lot of different things. It
Yes.
could be emotional, it could be spiritual, it could be practical, it
Yes.
could be everything, and
All of
there's
it.
also cost, right? So how
Yep.
do you like to think about capacity and why do you think capacity is such a powerful, let's call it a skill set almost, like
Totally.
to understand, like why do you believe that capacity is the word that encapsulates your message?
Totally. I think I've figured something out. I think I've discovered that anytime you're called to more, or you're called to a greater level or an upgrade season, if you will, if you're called to that, you're not going to feel like you have capacity for it. And frankly, your current life does not have capacity for it. So you're going to have to figure out how to develop new preparation, new training, new mindsets, new skill sets, new mastery across the board. And it is all those things. It's mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual, it's relational, it is financial, it's so many things. And it will affect everything you do. Like, your leadership is ultimately determined by your capacity and what you've been training or not.
Mm,
What you've been doing in private will absolutely come out because when pressure comes on you, anything that's in you will surface. So
yeah,
I have just figured out that, oh, it's just going to be normal that I don't feel like I have capacity. And that doesn't have to be a problem. Previously, I would have made that a problem. Like, I'm not ready. I can't do it. Now it's like, no, go train. It's like on the job training. Like, just get skill in action.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's me. Like, it'll be really funny. People will say, oh, I have this idea. I want to run this retreat. And I'm like, let's do it. And I'll do it a month later. I just don't. If you are designed to do something, you have to go put it in action and you have to develop it and you have to be okay being uncertain, and you be the one that creates the certainty in the uncertainty. You have to be okay not having that skill, but being willing to learn it, develop it, transfer that to somebody else, just
yeah.
constantly getting better. And so Just understanding you won't feel like you have capacity for what you're called to ever. But
Mm,
that's sort of the point. You will develop it when you say yes. And all of the resources, all of the guidance, all of the support, the skill steps, the steps that you need to take, all of that is going to be presented to you, and you'll just have to keep saying yes.
yeah. How do you then prioritize?
Yeah.
Because if what you're saying, right, if we think about it, because I'm liking this concept, right, is if it's your calling, if it's your bigger purpose, then
Yes.
you're going to find the capacity, you're going to create the capacity, right,
Yes.
to be able to do that thing. Like you say, hey, I'll do this retreat, I do it next month.
Totally.
But by doing that, you're then saying no to something that previously was in
Yeah.
that space, right? And so there's a
Yes.
level of prioritization. So how do
Yes.
you prioritize in a way
Yes.
that doesn't just have you going from one thing to the next without building consistent momentum, while at the
Yes.
same time making sure you do have the space for things that fit what you
100%.
are meant to be doing?
Yes. I think this is season, sensitivity, and service. So you
Mm,
have to know what season that you're in. So in that time, I knew that I was in a building season. Like I knew, like, we're just here to build. And so we're going to build a lot, probably a lot more than you're comfortable with, but we're in that season. So don't slow down. You are building, right? And then you're going to be clear on what you're building and what the priorities are in terms of what has to be built in this season and what doesn't fit that. So you're sold out to that. Sensitivity, this to me is very spiritual, but it's how you can be very sensitive. To some people, this is your intuition. To some other people, this is to what your values are. You're really sensitive to these inner promptings and this inner direction, so you're not easily influenced by the pressure outside of you or by the distractions outside of you, the different things that might shift outside of you. When you are sensitive to this is the way, walk in it, you just walk in it.
mm,
You don't overcomplicate it. You're just like, this is what I know I have to do and what I'm not going to do. So, for example, last year we did a whole year, the focus was pivoting on purpose. And the whole idea was you have to learn to hold things loosely and not like lock in on anything, but hold it loosely. And if you're getting the direction, turn here, turn. If you're getting the direction, let go, let go. If you're getting the direction, lean in, keep going. That's what you do. And so we just learned how to just adapt in that way and become really sensitive. So you get good if you're practicing that. So what season am I in? Being sensitive to how you're being led, how you're being guided, and just
mm.
trusting that you are. And then it's also the service. So what is of highest service for me in this season? So for example, the book was never convenient for me to write. Not ever in 4 years. Actually, it would be the easiest thing not to do. It
Right.
would have been the easiest thing to back burner, right? But I was like, oh, I get it. This is like experiential ed and what I need to deliver. So I'm just going to document everything that's happening. And somehow, when the time is right, it's supposed to happen. And that's absolutely what happened. But there were so many times throughout that time that I thought, oh, be much easier to table this, or it'd be so much more fun to not do it in this season
Right.
while I'm doing these other things. But that wasn't the point because of what the book ultimately was. It was, how do you develop capacity when you don't think you have it?
Mm.
Hello, I was getting my
Yeah.
Spark notes in real time, so I didn't know that until hindsight. I'm like, oh, interesting, right? But then I
Yeah.
got it later.
I want to go back to the pivoting thing because I thought that was very interesting. So, pivoting is one of those weird words, and
It can
people
be,
have different meanings to it, right? So I often like to use the word evolution versus pivot because people say, "Oh, Jake, your career you pivoted so many times." Well, I technically yes, I changed a direction, right? As a basketball player, you have your pivot foot, and that allows you to change direction.
yes, so you get it.
But for me, I kind of look at it like, yeah, I changed direction, but really I continued to elevate myself. I evolved based on who I was, what my skill set was, in this case, the seasons.
Yes,
When you did the pivoting stuff, and we don't have to compare pivoting versus
yes,
evolving, but
yes.
in the pivoting conversation, how did you, as you were doing that kind of year, did you pivot in similar directions for one common goal, or did you allow your pivots to just take you any which direction? Because that also can impact capacity and someone's ultimate progress based on their individual goals.
Yes. I was seeing, so with pivoting, I don't believe in being negligent. um, this is totally exercising wisdom, but this was the trust piece. Like, because I knew that this was a theme for the year, I don't know, maybe some people get words for the year, so it could be similar to that. But because I knew that this was a theme for the year, that I was not going to be comfortable with anything and have to be okay with that. And that
Mm,
anything that I'm doing is never going to be permanent. And I also have to be okay with that too. And I'm a leader and I lead a lot of people. So I also have to know that like they might not like the pivots that I'm making. And so I have to be very clean in my vision, very clean in my pivots, and very clean in my communication and execution and follow through. So I knew that I couldn't move like it's quickly relatively because it does feel like maybe
Yeah.
basketball does it too, but like the football fast feet where you're just like fast feet, fast pivot, like it does feel like that in real time, like in your guts, like it feels like that. But I knew that there was all a bigger purpose. Like the pivots were about refinement. The pivots were about strengthening systems and structures. The
Yeah.
pivots were about establishing stronger depth of relationships in leadership or in just your life in general. So I could see the pivots were ultimately for a certain end. So I could
Hmm.
tell if that pivot was one to make or not. But you have to be very sensitive. You have to shut down a whole lot of noise and able to be doing that really, really well. So it's not like I'm just going to up and move across the country. If that was the pivot, that would have been it. But it was more so they were small, they were subtle, they were refinements, and you have to be okay specifically relationally that people are
Hmm.
not going to like it, that it might be disruptive. But if you are here to disrupt systems, which I know, you're going to do that and you have to be okay with that. It's all about how you do it.
Would you say with the amount of pivots you've done and the amount of work you've done with this book and your career, would
Yeah.
you say that because of this, you have less attachment to the outcomes because you're more open to seeing what it can bring versus saying like, here's our objective, let's just find a way to get there? Or how do you think about the attachment to the outcome?
Yeah, I'm non-attached, which
Okay.
I know is countercultural. But the interesting thing is, it's the outcome or something better is kind of what I believe, right? So it's either going to be this outcome or it could be something better than I could come up with. And it's going to be better if I don't control it, if I don't manipulate
Hmm.
it, if I don't try to like insert my agenda into it,
Yeah.
right? And the outcomes, to me personally, work against my alignment and they work against my assignment if I'm not careful, because then you get outcomes focused and then you're out of alignment completely. So you're not stewarding your value now, you're not stewarding
Yep.
your presence or the essence of what you're here to communicate, and it just gets funky. So I look at it more like things that, if this is helpful, things that don't pivot, my identity doesn't pivot. Like I'm not in an identity crisis.
Hmm.
Like my core values don't pivot. I'm going to value integrity all day, every day. Like I'm going to value just certain principles that I live by. Those are not going to change, right? Which makes me stable in pivots,
Yep.
if that makes sense, right?
Totally.
So I am going to remain sold out to the bottom line, which to me is alignment and it's obedience to my assignment. That's absolutely what it is. And then
Okay.
however that evolves, I'm good with because
Yeah,
it serves usually I gain so much more than the outcome anyway.
I hear you. Now, alignment is this book.
Yeah,
Alignment is this book, right? Like that's what we're talking about. I'm excited for everyone to go get a copy,
totally.
right? Talk to me about this. You get ready to launch this book. You did something really cool, and I want to kind of share people kind of
Yeah.
some of the things that you did because I thought you did something really cool. How did you decide to build your launch, and how did you ultimately, what did you do leading up to the launch? And we'll talk about like a little strategy, and then I want to show people how you made capacity for all of this, and then also like there's some cool stories that have already happened. So like
Oh, so many.
how did you kind of think about the launch, and how did you tie it into the core message of the book?
I knew that I wanted to have a full capacity mastermind. Like that's why I knew I was writing this book. Like the book was almost going to be a tool for the training. So I knew the
Yep.
training that I was going to do. So it was kind of like egg, chicken, chicken, egg. I don't know. But I knew that there had to be something that helped people understand the ecosystem that I've created and what we do because it's online and so many people are unfamiliar with what we do. It's like, oh, you have an online community or you have, it's just nebulous to a lot of people. So there had to be something where I could convey, no, this is the work. This is actually what we're doing. And it's for sure not a wimp walk, it's a faith walk. Like, this is just not easy stuff. And it's so internal, but it's super valuable. So I knew that I wanted to do that. And then I thought, okay, if this is the first time that somebody is ever experiencing me, how would I simplify this so much that it's an easy yes? And they're like, how do I start training with you? So I thought, we probably got to prime them. Right? I'm like, if this is the first shot, and I have the perfect example of this, there's a woman from Switzerland that found me 4 weeks before the launch. I believe it was from my podcast, and she got into an activation that I did joined the launch virtually and is in the mastermind. And I'm like, what on earth? But she was like literally who I was building it for. So I decided to do, which was a ton of work, and capacity, which was the irony the entire time. I did a 40-day email series where they would just get a daily capacity email. So I made a capacity framework, which is not even in the book, and they went through this framework for 40 days. And then also in that, I was telling them about a 4-week activation, which was going to be a live experience where I'm going to tease what is in the book. We're going to meet live every week straight into the launch. So that was also what I did, a 4-week live activation. And then we had a live launch event to do everything that we do in Courage Co., which is this spirit-led formation school that other people would not know. So we could have just done like a cute book launch party and whatever, but we did not want to do that. We wanted to do a full day. So literally from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., we had speakers, we had panels, we had so many different interactions for people the whole day, and they could go connect with each other because a lot of them have met online, so they never met
Yep.
in person. So it was just a full day affair. We called it the immersion. And that was super fun. And we just were able to bring so many things into that were just really, really special. And then we also announced the Full Capacity Mastermind at that people could be a part of. And then we launched that a month later.
Mm.
Yeah.
So we did email series, 4-week
Yes.
activation,
Yep.
live launch event,
Yep.
bestseller campaign, which you didn't even get into,
Yeah,
right?
totally. That too.
Just
That was
throw
in there.
that in there and there
Oh,
into a
gosh.
mastermind sale.
Yes.
And how, like, just out of curiosity, you don't have to share any numbers, but like, how did the mastermind go when you opened it for conversion?
Yeah, well, this was so funny because I went through like my notes that I was doing maybe even in November or like February. And I think it was, I was like, oh, 7 would be great. And it was just like a cute little number. And then I was just like, God's laughing at me right now. He's like, would you just think bigger? So we ended up getting 17 people in
Come
there.
on.
And we still have people asking if they can get in. So we might bump it up, but we have 17 that signed up.
All right, this is huge. And first of all, congratulations on that,
Thank
because
you.
you put in so much effort. And from the minute we met, you told me something that I will always remember when we met, and you said, Jake, this book is part of the coming out party. It's part of
Yeah.
the next level. Like, this is
Yeah.
the book that is going to like put me on the next level of the map,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And what I could say is, after working with you through this experience, is whatever map someone's looking at, right? Your next level is on it, right? And the point of that, though, is you use this book as the commitment to take yourself to the next phase.
Yeah.
And every action that you did during the time, whether it was through the editing stage, whether it was through the detailed of reviewing the manuscript, the cover design, everything that you did was so intentional for that. But the book, committing to that book, committing to the partner you wanted, committing to the way you wanted it to be done, was very intentional.
Yes.
And then that allowed you to curate the right approach based on where you wanted to go. You build out a series, you grew the email list, you launched a great campaign, and you had 17 freaking members in a mastermind.
Yes.
That is exactly what doing this book the right way does. Now,
Yes.
the book is just a piece. Who you
Yes.
are and what you chose to do in your philosophy, what you talk about in this book. The
Yes.
meta of this whole thing is you did exactly what this book talks about.
Yes.
And so I want to know, what's been your favorite moment, your favorite part? The book's been out for a little bit now. Like, what's been your favorite part? What's been your favorite story so far? What's been the most unexpected thing? Like, share some things that people may not ever know or hear about, but they matter.
Yes. Yes. I'll share a big moment, and then I'll also share like a really cool thing that I sat with. So the big moment was I brought in my adoptive mom into this experience. So to go see the billboard, she wasn't, we're somewhat estranged. I've known her since I was 7, but she didn't raise me. We didn't have that kind of relationship. But we had done a New York trip when I was 15, and she had read me this diary from the day I was born until that day. So I thought, oh, I think I'm supposed to invite her to New York with me, and we're supposed to like redo that itinerary, and I'll just give her my diary this time. So shared that with her. She lost her mind, and we had the best time. So we just flew to New York, had the best time with this whole experience, and it just was so healing for her, which I could not have even anticipated. And that happened after I wrote the book. So it was just not part of the plan at all. It was just what I was saying, that sensitivity and following a prompting. and giving somebody the opportunity to have that experience. So that was absolutely amazing and such a fun full circle moment. But I was sitting in the launch, the immersion that we did, and I was thinking about just the irony of how this is full capacity, like in action. And I thought, wow, this is so powerful because I do feel ridiculously free. Like I've never felt like more of who I am in my entire life. Like I'm just so content in that and so centered in that. And I'm so present. Like there's so many things happening right now. Anybody else would collapse, but this is the point. Like I can be present for every single thing and make every single one of those details matter. Like anybody that flew out here was a big deal to me. I wanted a personal touch with every single one of those people. Like the very next day after we had panelists, I am sending them gift cards and writing them like personal notes. I'm not sleeping. Like I'm literally doing this and like putting on a whole event for people that flew out here. But there were so many things that were a big deal. So many moments that I didn't want to drop or mishandle, but I was present for them all and I was not stressed in any of them. I just knew what to do and it just all flowed. And it was probably better than I could have ever planned. So I thought that's what this is. I didn't see limits in any of that. It felt so fun for me to do that. It was so much on a calendar. If you were to look at it in the natural, just look at a calendar, you'd be like, oh my Lord. It would look like, how does one do this? But that was sort of the experience. It seemed to somebody else graceful, effortless, really impactful. And I thought, yes, yes, because you learn how to shift the weight, shoulder the weight,
Right.
release weight, and you just learn how to be in that. And that I think was the greatest thing. Like I literally didn't just write a message, I became the message.
Oh, that's good. That's a
Yeah.
good line. I like that line. Okay. All right. Before we tell people where to get the book and how to work with you and all these really cool things, I want to
Yeah.
actually do one more practical component of this
Cool.
book. So if somebody's listening to this and they're getting fired up or they're like, damn, she really knows her shit, like, where do I begin?
Yes.
What are the first few things that you would encourage somebody who is listening to this and they're like, I want to be at full capacity. Like I want to
Yeah.
be ridiculously free. I want to live
Yes.
life without limits. Like
Yes.
what are the simple first steps that somebody needs to think about or do to start living that life?
I would say it's to have the courage to ask for help and invest in yourself. I think we grossly underestimate the amount of blind spots that we have, and where we don't have leverage in our life. And when you start working with somebody, whether that's therapist, coach, mentor, whatever it is, if it's the right person, they will call out the gold in you and they will help you see what you're actually not accountable to yet. Like, normally, we're not accountable to our greatness, we're accountable to our weakness or our limitation.
Mm,
And that's what we're committed to. And then we just keep having this life where we feel smaller and like we have to shrink to be in. And that's the worst experience. So it's a rare person that can actually see your greatness and call that out of you and hold you to it and challenge you to fully step into that. So I would say the first step is asking for help
mm,
and finding that person that can be your sparring partner
yeah.
and it can draw out the gold that's in you so that you actually do things like own your voice and you do build what only you can build and you do really co-create with this beautiful inspiration and direction that you have, literally what only you can create in the world. Nobody else can do that. And
Yeah.
there's nothing more, I would say, challenging, but also more fulfilling than doing that.
Mm,
And that's where you find freedom, is when you're ultimately fulfilled in what you're on the planet to do.
I like it. I
Yeah.
like it. So look, this has been great. I could ask you a million more questions about
Sure.
this. But you know what? We're going to let people just get the book. So
Yes.
how do they get the book? How do they learn more about you? How do they work with you? Tell everybody where to go. And
Yes.
we'll make sure it gets all linked up here too.
Love. Well, simple, full capacity on Amazon. You can get it there. You can go to julianapage.com. That's the main site that will shoot you out everywhere else. And we train in an app called Courage Go. So that's www.couragego.org. Tons of programs, courses, all the things in there. But we work. We don't talk about it. We are about it over there. So julianapage.com is probably the best place to find podcasts and everything else.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And what you just said there reminded me of something. When I was little, my basketball coach, he
Uh-huh.
used to always just say, and this isn't his line, and I don't have any idea who actually said this the first time, but he was always like, don't talk about it, be about it.
Yeah. I
And
love.
it has stuck with me forever. It's just my basketball coach in seventh grade. And he
I
was like, don't talk
love.
about it, be about it.
It's
Like,
so
don't
true,
talk how
though.
you're going to play defense. Play the damn defense.
I mean, they're
Don't talk
different.
about scoring points. Score the points.
Exactly.
And I think that's such a great thing that you mentioned. And so for everybody that's listened to this, Juliana Page is an awesome person, and you could hear her passion, you could hear her enthusiasm. And I want to encourage you to grab a copy of the book. But before we leave and before we say goodbye, I want to give you an action item, a challenge for this conversation. And the challenge I have for you is, where can you find capacity to be great?
Mhm.
So you can find it by asking for help. You can find it by not talking about it, but being about it. You can find it in various different aspects of your life. But that's the challenge I want you to sit with. That's the challenge I want you to reflect on. And that's the challenge I want you to execute on, because if you do it, who knows? Maybe you'll sign 17 people from a mastermind all of a sudden,
You
right?
never know. Well, this might help too if you want to view it this way. I had a legacy of people that demonstrated cowardice that didn't show up. So
Mm.
where Courage Co came from, right, is if I were to stop being a coward and just show up courageously, what would I do? What would that look like? So maybe that's your
That's
shortcut.
the question.
Maybe
That's the
that's your
question.
shortcut. If you were to
But to
stop
answer
being a
that question,
coward,
But to answer
yeah.
that question, you have to be willing to face the music
Oh,
that
for
in some
sure.
areas of your life you are a coward in some way, shape, or
Yes.
form.
Yes.
But that is a great question, right? And so I want you to repeat it one more time, and then we're gonna wrap this thing up.
Yes, hypothetically, because there's no cowards here, but hypothetically, if you knew a coward, if you were going to stop being a coward in your life and show up courageously, what would that look like?
There it is. Boom, boom. I
Boom.
love it, Juliana. This is awesome. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate you, and everybody, make sure to grab a copy of her best-selling book, Full Capacity. We'll talk to you next time.